Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Independent Dollar. Today we're going to be sharing with you some of the most expensive mistakes we made when buying our home, so you can hopefully learn from them and save yourself the thousands of dollars in headaches we had to go through when purchasing our place. First up is fireplaces. Are you buying a house with a fireplace? We did, and we loved it. Until we moved in and the fireplace got red tagged by our propane company because it didn't have a rating plate. If you're not sure what a rating plate is, either were we. A rating plate is a small tag or a metal plate with all of the safety and specifics of your fireplace, like the model number and what type of fuel it uses, and so on. All appliances will have rating plates on them, so if you have anything hooked up to gas or propane, you want to make sure that those plates are there. The same would apply to a gas or a propane stove. Without it, at least where we live, the propane company would not allow us to use the fireplace, and they actually shut off the gas until we either got a new plate or replaced the fireplace altogether. For us, this was extremely inconvenient since the fireplace was our main source of heat. It took us months to get a new rating plate, and even after we did, we were told we were lucky because most of the time it isn't actually possible. Rating plates are considered a legal document and only so many plates are created for an appliance. A new rating plate can cost over $100, but the cost to replace the old fireplace had we not been able to get that plate would have been thousands. If you're using a wood stove to heat your home, the same applies. Without it, your insurance will not cover your home if you use a stove. Not only does this mean you won't be covered in the event of an accident, it also means you won't be able to get a mortgage because they usually require proof of home insurance in order to get approved. Next up is propane inspections. Another unexpected expense we ran into when we purchased our place was the propane lines. We didn't know it at the time, but in our area, propane providers are supposed to be doing inspections on the tanks, lines, and appliances every 10 years. The place we had purchased had not had an inspection done in nearly 15, and we didn't know that. As a result, we ended up having to replace some propane lines as well as our rental tanks, which cost us almost $400 that we weren't expecting. We also learned at the time that our propane oven needed to be replaced, and this was also when our fireplace had been shut off because of that missing rating plate. If I could go back in time, I would have asked to see the documents showing that a propane inspection had been done. I may have also asked to have the inspection done at the same time we did the home inspection before buying it, since it would have at least given me the chance to negotiate the cost of replacing those items into the purchase price. Next up is property taxes. When we bought our first home, we had barely any furniture to our name. We saved as much as we could before we moved in, with the plan of buying some of those key pieces like a new couch and a kitchen table. Luckily though, we did not jump into any purchases right away because within 30 days of moving in, we got hit with our very first tax bill. What we didn't know at the time is our taxes are charged semi-annually. This meant that shortly after moving in, we had to part with almost all of the money that we had saved up to pay a tax bill in advance for the next 6 months, which cost us nearly $2,000. Thankfully, we had the money set aside, but had we not, we would have had to either put that on our credit card or ask for a loan. Next up, and the one I may regret the most, is crawl spaces. A few years ago, we purchased a country property raised about 2 feet or so above the ground. Around the property, except for one area, it was boarded up to reduce wind and animals from getting under the home. One side of the house, however, there was a lattice that we could have easily pulled away and then crawled under the property to inspect it, or at least had someone do that for us. However, it wasn't something that our property inspector did or suggested, and since we didn't know any better at the time, we never thought to look. After we purchased the property and needed to do some repairs on the plumbing, we found out that the previous owners had secured insulation underneath the entire home. If you don't know already, rodents love insulation and they tore all of it down, leaving old, dirty, and infested insulation covering the entire ground underneath our house. In order to do any repairs, whether it be us doing them or hiring someone, we had to crawl under the home and remove all of that old insulation first. Again, if I could go back in time and had seen this before we purchased it, I would have either negotiated more on the purchase price or I probably would have requested that it be removed before we actually bought it. Next up is buying a home on the water. Before we bought our home, we had originally looked at purchasing a place on the water. This was our first experience with waterfront property, so we were not aware of all the rules surrounding waterfront land, what you can build, and what you can do or not do with the shoreline. These rules are usually governed by your local conservation authorities, and in some cases, there are other rules that you need to follow that are enforced through different agencies, so you really want to find out who these people are before you consider buying anything on the water. Needless to say, what we were advised we could do from our realtor, and then what we were told we could actually do from the Conservation Authority were two completely different things. As a result, after spending almost $2,000 to go through all of the different home inspections, we eventually had to walk away from the purchase because we learned we just couldn't make the changes to the property that we wanted to. Had we known to contact and do our research ahead of time with these conservation authorities, then we would have started there before paying for any of the home inspections. Next up, and maybe the most important, is finding the right professionals. If you watched our recent video on the steps to purchase a home, one of the things that we mentioned is taking your time to find the best people to work with. Something we've learned through all of this is that there are some really great realtors, lawyers, and inspectors that are experts in their area and can add a wealth of knowledge during the home buying process. However, not everyone is going to be experienced or licensed in surrounding areas, with unique properties like waterfront homes, or with things like propane, gas, or wood appliances. It's always a good idea to do your own homework, but you also need to take your time shopping around just as you would with any other professional that you're going to be working with. Purchasing a home may be the biggest investment you make in your lifetime, so you want to make sure that you have the best people for the job advising you as you go through this process.